No sports topic is out of bounds. You found the MN Sports Blitz. Along with former Minnesota Vikings linebacker Chad Greenway, here's Joel Niemeyer.
And good day. Welcome back to our latest edition of the MN Scores Blitz. I'm Joel. That is Chad. And a good day to you, Chad. How you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on again.
Nice to be here. Maybe let's start off in Chad Greenway's appearance here on the Blitz, brought to you by MN Scores, the app. Give us an update. I would guess, because October time, that's fun playoffs for volleyball and football. I would guess you guys are gearing up for that here in a few weeks.
Yes, we are. Oh my gosh, it's starting to ramp up, and it's just such a fun time. I mean, I think, I'm trying to think of a better time of year than fall sports. I know the late winter and early spring sports are fun with basketball and hockey, but fall, volleyball, football, two massive sports going on right now. We're really looking to build up into kind of playoff season.
And playoff season, it's a fun time, whether it's football or volleyball. I mean, it's exciting. Teams get a chance to play for trophies, and it's just that. It's just a different feel, I would guess, in a playoff game as opposed to just a regular old high school event.
It is, and especially, obviously, I'm kind of privy to football and kind of love football a lot. Football, playoff football is just, there's something about it. The smell in the air, the fall, the weather's changing, the leaves are changing. You get all these great communities kind of get behind the sport and the athletes. It's just so fun. And, for our app, the success has been pretty crazy. I mean, the amount of traffic we get driven to that thing now on every Friday night or on a weekday or a weekend tournament for volleyball has been tremendous. I mean, we can literally see as the numbers climb and drive up that people are jumping in, they're joining in, they're having fun with it, they're engaged. And we feel like by the time we get to playoff season, there's going to be a lot of users that are going to be new to MN Scores and just really loving what we're bringing. And the bigger the network gets, the better the app gets. That's what's fun about it. And we're having some issues with small schools. So if there's anybody out there that has a 9-man or a 1A school, make sure you're getting the app downloaded. It's a free app. Jump on and favorite your team and become a fan for us and get involved. So other than that, the widespread use in Minnesota has been impressive.
Well, and to me, some of the most fun football, because while I like watching the Vikings, I like watching the Gophers. If I'm going to go to a live football game, high school is kind of my game of choice. I just enjoy that atmosphere more than I do a Vikings game or a Gophers game.
Yeah, because it's different. I like the innocence, sort of the reactions of high school kids. They're just more innocent. They're not there for a certain reason. They're not there about themselves. It's not there about because they're getting a paycheck. It's there because they love the community. They love the support they're getting. And any chance I get to go to a high school football game, I just don't think there's anything in the world that can compare to it. I just think it's a special environment. And was at the Providence Academy homecoming game here 2 weeks ago. Wasn't able to go as an away game last weekend, but just being around, taking my family, sitting in the bleachers and cheering for kids that over in the school. And there's just something about it. I don't know what it is. It's almost, it just feels like a slice of history that hasn't changed too much. I think that's what's nice about high school football. And I love small towns. So you go to the small town, you pull up and you see the only big lights in town. The tallest buildings in town are the lights, and that's where the high school football field is. And they're lit up, and there's two rival teams playing against each other for bragging rights for that year. I just don't think it could be better.
Well, let's talk. I mentioned the Vikings a little bit, and they kind of continue, even though as much as I would like to maybe talk about the Wild and the Wolves starting their season, the Vikings kind of remain the A topic in sports here. I mean, there's been some good about the Vikings, there's been some bad about the Vikings, but bottom line, they're 1-3 right now. Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, you got to win in the NFL. You can't take moral victories. You can't say, hey, we almost had them, right? I mean. Reality was we played back-to-back really good football games. I truly believe that, right? Actually 3 in a row. Let's look back to Arizona. Let's look at Seattle. Let's look at Cleveland. I think you could argue the Vikings could have easily won all those games. I think you play well enough. You can take that moral victory and the 2 losses out of those 3. But the reality was that you didn't get them. And now you sit here. You're 1-3, and you look at the NFL, and what the crazy part is you're 1-3, and you're right in the thick of things because there's a lot of good 1-3 football teams right now in the NFL, which, the NFL always seems to win somehow. They always seem to have good storylines and good teams all over the place. this next, I used to think looking back at the schedule, the first 4 games are the most important. You got to get off to a fast start. And I think you could argue now that because we are 1-3, right, these games all matter. Like, I think you basically put the other 13 games now on a pedestal and say, we have a 13-game season where we have to be really, really good. And it has to start with games that you have to win, right? There's games like the Lions that you just have to win because you're a better football team and you can't make mistakes. And these penalties we've been seeing offensively, like, you just got to stay away from them and get wins. And that's, at the end of the day, what you have to do.
It looked for me looking around the NFL in certain years, you can point to 1 or 2 teams like, all right, those 2, they're going to be there in the end, and everybody else is playing for third place, kind of a thing. I don't know if you have that this year. I mean, there's only one unbeaten team in Arizona left yet, and you have a bunch of pretty decent teams that if they go on a run, they can do something.
Yeah, I think it always makes the dreamer in us, right? The Vikings fan in us say that can be us. Like, this is a good enough football team to make a deep run in the playoffs, or this is a team that could miss the playoffs. I mean, that's how much parity there is in the NFL right now. I mean, you look at you said it best. I mean, who's the clear cut right now? Everybody would have said going in it's going to be the Chiefs and Bucks, right? Well, I think you look at that differently now and say I'm not so sure that's the case right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Obviously, there's a long ways to go and a lot of stuff to do, but the reality is that, a lot of good football teams, and it's still all there for the taking. We just got to decide if we want to do it or not.
One bright spot, I meant last time you and I talked about KJ Osborne a little bit, bright spot for the offense. Bright spot for the defense to me, come out of nowhere, Nick Vigil. I think he's had a pretty decent year for the Viking defense so far.
He has. I mean, I think you look at a guy like Nick Vigil, and he steps in, a guy that nobody knows who Nick Vigil is when he comes here, and it's probably not a name that's real interesting to some folks, but in the football community, he's been a very solid to good, to at times great player. And when he comes in and can get in the right scheme and system, those types of guys, when they know what they're doing, they react and can play, like they can really have standout and breakout years. And I love what he's doing for this team. I love the flexibility he's given us with Barr being out. I'm mostly interested now in how they're going to utilize the 3 backers with Barr seemingly being back this week. It looks like on paper he's coming back. So he's created some flexibility as a linebacker group where when we go base defense and have all 3 in, I mean, you're gonna look at 3 really solid backers. And if you have to sub, does Nick Vigil get a package? Do you try to create some flexibility with Anthony Barr becoming a rusher and keep Nick Vigil in because he's made enough plays and he's earned the right? I can see them doing that, especially with our lack of pass rush on third downs in certain situations, or getting somebody opposite Danielle Hunter to create a pass rush. Can you put Anthony Barr down and maybe move Everson Griffin inside to a 3 technique and get some rush, and then keep Vigil and Kendricks in sort of to tag team that? I think that's something that Zimmer's going to do to get creative. He knows we have to win now to turn this thing around, and I think we can get it done. I think we have the personnel to do it.
You mentioned this week, and I think one thing that it's hard to get a lot of people to agree on to agree on something. One thing all the NFL experts agree that the Vikings better beat Detroit, because if they don't, this is as close to as a must-win game as you're ever going to get.
It is. I mean, that's just the reality. The NFL, it's, again, you go back to my statement earlier, you got to win. You got to win ball games. You can't take these moral victories and say that you're not going to moral victory your way to the playoffs. You got to go win these tough games. Win these tight games against the Browns, win those, make that field goal to get that tough one in Arizona. Those are just, you make that kick and win that Browns game, man, we are riding high right now and thinking, man, we're untouchable. And that's just that, a play or 2 here or there away from being different. And we got to get on the other side of that. We got to be the ones making those plays, especially the home game with Cleveland last week. I mean, absolutely tough football game, a tough football team, a tough opponent, but again, they're at your place. Those are games you got to find ways to win. And it just proves that their physical running game, their running backs were too much. But give them credit. That's a good football team. They came in and got the job done, and we didn't. So now we got to move on and find a way.
After Detroit, it's Carolina, week 6 on the road, I do believe. And that's an improved team. I don't know if a lot of people saw, Sam Darnold in the season he's had coming, but that's a pretty good team that the Vikings are going to face here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Sam Darnold's interesting, right? Because I think you start looking at the draft, and really it comes down to, can teams draft people that fit their system? Can you draft folks that fit the coaching style? And I think we can all determine the Jets didn't do that. The Jets didn't do that with Darnold, and they moved on quickly. The coaching situation was abysmal and dire, and it looks like the Jets are, not world beaters right now, but in a better trajectory with new coaching staff and Darnold moving on. But it goes to show you that with Darnold put in the right spot, that ability we all saw when he's coming out of USC is there. I mean, he's got freak arm ability. He's got great talent, and he's a smart kid. And I think you're starting to see that he's using his feet really well and running the ball. And I think to your point, when you go on the road in the NFL, it's never easy. So that Carolina game's not probably as easy as it probably looked, 2-3 months ago. But nevertheless, a game on the road that you can go steal all day long.
Let's quickly go over to college football because we've got to give some love to your alma mater because they probably have, I think, the national college football game of the week here this weekend. That's Iowa and I believe Penn State. That could be a knockout game. I mean, the loser of that one still's going to have a good season, but if you want to contend for playoffs, like getting in those Final Four, you got to win this one.
Yeah, you pretty much have to win this one and then kind of hold court and get to that Big Ten championship game. I still see that there's a path with one loss for both teams if they can get their way all the way to the Big Ten tournament and a Big Ten championship game and win. I think that's the only other path that is doable. But then again, you kind of have to rely on the strength of the Big Ten. Is it going to be there to get you kind of ranked high enough? At the end of the day, it's going to be a great football game. Kind of Penn State and Iowa. If you go back and look at the 20-year history, there's been some very, very, very good football games, some last-second touchdowns, some really tight defensive battles, to some very good games in general. So Penn State's always got good teams. They always have great ability and talent. They're well coached with Franklin right now, and I think coming to our place is going to be obviously an advantage for us being home because going out to Beaver Stadium in Pennsylvania is a massive challenge. So yeah, it's going to be fun. Afternoon football. I wish it was pushed up into the night because I would love to have the lights on in Kinnick because it's just a special environment. So yeah, it's exciting right now. I mean, but then you look out the schedule. Like you have Penn State, you got to win that one, which is obviously presents a massive challenge. But at the same time, look down the road is the schedule is getting easier in the Big Ten because Purdue's a good football team, Minnesota's a good football team. You have a bunch of teams that are in that kind of next pack that they can give you all sorts of issues. So. You're in the Big Ten. It's never easy. It's never a surefire thing. And it's just that this one in front of you this week is massive on a national scale.
Does it help or hurt in your eyes? Because the Big Ten West, you look clearly the West is not as good as the East this year. There's a lot of good football teams, a lot of elite football teams in the Eastern Division. Does that help or hurt a team like Iowa or even Minnesota's case if they want to try and get back into things?
Yeah, because I think you look at Minnesota, they're still right there. I mean, they've taken a couple bad losses. One bad loss specifically, not two. I thought the game against Ohio State was a great football game. I thought they played well enough to win that thing until that bad 5-minute sequence there. I think the Gophers are a good football team. I think, losing Ibrahim was really tough because he is their bell cow. I mean, he's an absolute problem out there. So that's disheartening. But at the same time, that's a team that's going to contend, I believe. I think when you have a veteran quarterback who's had his struggles this year, but let's be honest, they got enough ability. They have a good defense. You can't drop games like Miami of Ohio. It just can't happen. Bowling Green. It can't happen, right? You just can't have those types of games. You got to find ways to win those games. But they're going to make some noise in the West. Now, having answered your first question, I think that, it makes your path to the championship game easier, but doesn't make that championship game easy, right? I mean, you play the West. If you can win that thing, awesome. You're in the title game. Now you got to go find a way to win that eastern side, which I would say on paper has a much deeper and probably a bigger high end. But then again, every team on that side has looked like they have some flaws. I think, we'll see what Penn State, how for real they are this weekend. And that'll kind of sort itself out. But we've seen Ohio State, right? Gophers gave them everything they wanted. Then they go lose to Oregon the next week. So at the end of the day, I think there's not one Big Ten team, Ohio State has been these past few years, just been so dominant. To go back to a freshman quarterback and rely on has been a little bit of an issue for them, and they played some tight ball games. So it'll be interesting to see. I think a lot this weekend in Iowa City.
Lastly, I want to give some love to St. Thomas. They're 5 games into their Division I schedule. Their first, jumping from Division III to Division I. And, when you make that big of a leap, to me, I don't expect a lot out of you. And right now they're 2-3, and they could have 3 or 4 wins. I mean, they've had a good start to their career in Division I. How hard is it to make that jump to Division III to Division I?
Oh my gosh, it's impossible. I mean, I don't think there's any way to quantify it. I mean, I think you'd like to see when programs that are set to make that jump, right, they make it and they know there's going to be this sort of period of time where things are going to be really challenging. But I like what they've done. I think scheduling has been really important, a really important piece of that. But at the end of the day, you get that program flipped. You get some ability to recruit off of that ability to switch into Division I. I love what they're doing. It's fun to see.
Sounds good. Hey, we'll chat again in a couple weeks, Chad.
You bet. Yeah. Thanks, Joel, for having me on.
That's Chad Greenway, former Minnesota Vikings linebacker, and this is the MN Scores Blitz.
The MN Sports Blitz has been produced by KDUZ, KARP, KGLB, and the Ingstad, Minnesota Radio Network. Complete episodes are available on our website and on YouTube.